Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of English 101. My name is Lily, and today I'm going to be talking about how difficult it is to learn Chinese for native Spanish speakers. Chinese is considered the fastest growing language learning in the world, with over 30 million people learning it globally. Now, why did I decide to do this podcast today? It's because in my country, Peru, has just taken place the APEC, or also known as the Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. This is a very important event where a lot of presidents from different Asian and Pacific countries have arrived, and between them, of course, we have Joe Biden and the arrival of the President of the Republic of China, Xi Jinping. Now, I noticed that there was a lot of excitement on the arrival of the President of China, especially because of the investment that this country is making in our country, as it is the last mega port constructed in Shanghai, which is going to reduce the time of importing and exporting goods from Shanghai to Peru. Now, because of this, it was all over the news, and then a lot of people started wondering how important it will be to learn Chinese in the future. Well, in fact, I don't think it will be in the future. I think it is really important at this moment already to start learning this language. Now, why is it important to learn Chinese? First of all, for the reason that I already mentioned, that China is a growing economy and right now is considered the second power in the world, right after the USA only. And of course, that is what you will find on internet, but my personal opinion is that they go neck to neck with the USA. But once again, this is very personal. This is not my field of expertise, but this is how I felt after living in China for nearly 3 years. Another reason why it's important to learn this language is because company values employees who can communicate across cultural and language barriers, which is the same that happens right now with English, right? People who are able to communicate or have, like, depending on the position, a basic or intermediate or advanced level knowledge of the language, of course, are going to get maybe better or different or higher positions. So that's once again my personal opinion, and I would like also to mention that this whole podcast is based on my point of view as a language learner and not as a teacher. Of course, I am not Chinese master, and neither I think right now a basic user, because it's been more than 5 years since I stopped learning Chinese, and as everything in, like, when it happens to knowledge or to languages, when you don't practice it, of course it starts to deteriorate, and probably that has happened to me already, right? But I do remember how the process was and how it is compared to English, which is the next part, about how difficult is it compared to English, how difficult is it to learn compared to the English language. For that, I have to divide it into grammar, the written language, the reading, and the speaking itself. Grammar is simpler than English, because in English there are about 16 different tenses, but in Chinese that doesn't exist. Therefore, the grammar part of the language is easier than English and than Spanish, of course. Then we have the written language. Now, Chinese doesn't have an alphabet, okay, but they do have characters instead. However, they do have pinyin, which is kind of they call it the romanization system for standard Chinese. are also what is called a spell nouns. This is an easier way, for people to type it or to write it, because nowadays Chinese people, they do not handwrite the language, as that will imply to actually do the strokes. The strokes have certain order, they go from left to right, up to down, etc. But not many people, and I would say most of Chinese don't do that nowadays, as even the written part or the characters are considered even an art because of how beautiful they look. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen people with Chinese characters or people writing them. Well, then the reading, when it comes to reading, you're wondering maybe, so if each character represents one word and doesn't have an alphabet, how am I supposed to read something in Chinese? Well, in Chinese, there are about 50,000 characters. And now, wow, do I need to learn all of them to be able to read something in Chinese? No, don't worry. To be able to read the newspaper in Chinese, it is said that you need to master between 2 to 3,000 characters in Chinese. Now, what they teach kids at the school is between 6 to 8,000 characters. And an educated Chinese person masters around 8,000 characters in total. So as you can see, not even an educated person master not even the fifth part of the total amount of characters, because most of them or a lot of them are already quite ancient and are characters that are not used in modern Chinese. So, and that is for the reading. And then when it comes to speaking, Chinese is known as a tonal language, which means that each character can be pronounced in many different ways, and each of them is going to have a meaning on its own. This is, in my opinion, what makes the language harder, because of course Spanish and English are two languages where we do give intonation to our sentences, right, depending on what we want to emphasize, but we mostly use it for that, to emphasize certain part of the sentence or certain word. But in Chinese, each word or each character has a different tone. They have four different ones that goes from down to up to down. It goes like flat and then down, up, up, down to up. I don't want to complicate you with that part because that would be more extensive, of course. But if you do not pronounce that in the right tone, you might be saying something else. And once again, this is what I consider it's complicated, because coming from a language where you don't really pay much attention of it, of course, is something that might be harsh at the beginning. Now, from my own experience of what I have seen while living in China, is that a lot of foreigners there learn to speak before they could even understand the grammar or the tones. Because, of course, while you are in your target country where they speak the language, is easier because you would just learn through repetition, right? That is one way. And another reason is because, as I mentioned at the beginning, the grammar part of Chinese is not so complicated. So even though you have like basic information or you already know some basic words, you can already start communicating in a basic level after a while only. While I was living there, of course, I reached a point where I could make myself understood for certain basic situations in like the day to day. But of course, I don't think now I could. I'm not even close to that because, well, in practice makes perfect, and that's not what I'm doing right now. And well, in conclusion, my recommendation this time from my point of view as a teacher is for people who are interested in stepping up in their careers, or for students as well, right, to give it a try, as more and more people and institutions are realizing how important Chinese is already. As a matter of fact, one of my students during one of the speaking lessons, he mentioned that his daughter is being taught Chinese at school, and it's a school in Pune. And well, I was like surprised, but I was like happily surprised because I mean it's part of the teaching, is part of it's one of the topics at the school, and great for the kids because they're already at least putting that little chip on them, letting them know that that language is also important. So if some institutions and people already know this, you guys shouldn't stay behind. And well, last but not least, don't be surprised if sooner than what you think, Chinese will become one of the requirements for certain job positions, as it is for English right now. When it comes to like different jobs in I don't know, in Peru, and I think in all around the world, they do require you to have a basic English, and depending on the higher the position, the higher the level as well. So I think Chinese is becoming more or less like that. Do not wait until it becomes a requirement and then you start learning Chinese the same that you did with English. You lost already job opportunities. You already missed the chance to step up just because you didn't give English the necessary importance that you should have given it before. So the same for Chinese. Don't wait until that happens. Start little by little. It's a very beautiful language. Once again, I can tell you from my own experience, uh, it was easier than what I thought it will be. I was at the beginning, I was like, of course, kind of just terrified of what I was gonna learn. But with the time and with the language is so beautiful that you just fall in love with it. So just, if you can take it as a hobby, that will be great. And last but not least, if you are language enthusiast, I would like to recommend a book, which is one of my favorite authors. His name is Peter Hessler. Okay, and the book that I have here with me is called Oracle Bones, but this mostly talks about his life in China when he came there to for a while to work in a university, and his experience as a journalist. But there is another very good book in which he talks about the development of China on the last 30 years, because this is a country that only 30 years ago was poor, and how it has thrived and succeed, it's like impressive. And he was living exactly during that period of transformation. The name of this book is Country Driving, which is a very, I mean, once again, my personal experience is a very interesting journey through the transformation of China. And that will give you an insight of the country and also an insight of the language, right? Okay, so perfect. Thank you very much once again for coming all the way to this point together with me. I hope you like it, and I will see you in the next time. Bye-bye.